Hello, everyone. I'm Nazleen with the Global Good Fund, and I'll be facilitating today's session. Thank you for joining us today in our series on crisis management trainings. Our topic of discussion today is maintaining health and wellness at home. I'm delighted to introduce our panelists today. We have Sam Whiteside of the Motley Fool. Her background is in well-being practices at different organizations and companies, including Anthem Insurance, Broward College, and of course at the Motley Fool. She's also a personal trainer, health education specialist, exercise psychologist, and worksite wellness specialist. So welcome, Sam. We are delighted to have you join us today and just learn about how we can stay mentally healthy and physically as well. Just to give you a sense of the format of today's webinar, I have a series of questions that I will be posing to Sam. So we're going to have a dialogue and a conversation where we can draw on her experiences and she can just share some best practices with us. And then we will have time for Q&A. I encourage all of you to pose any questions that you may have during our discussion. There's a Q&A chat box at the bottom, in the middle of the screen. Please go ahead and post any questions that you have as Sam and I are having our conversation. So with that, I guess we can kick it off. Sam, to help set the stage, can you share the Motley Fool's overarching philosophy about health and wellness and why it's so important to the company?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, by the way. I think it's really important to know kind of where the Motley Fool's wellness program started. Before I came to the Fool, an amazing Fool who was actually in tech was really interested in leading fitness classes and really leading the charge on fitness training and getting Fools moving. And that's kind of where the wellness program really started, was in physical activity, getting people moving, bringing people together in groups. And so we have that natural competitive spirit. So when I got to the Fool, activity was kind of one of those boxes that we had already checked, right? I'm really, really big on being holistic and seeing everything from a full picture, mainly including total well-being. So I really, really wanted to double down on what I call brain health. The second you say the M word, mental health, it brings so many emotions and so many barriers and so many just negative connotations based on how Western society has put those blockers in place. So I use the word brain health. I want people to actually think of what is up here is just as important as doing cardio, as doing squats and push-ups and all of those things. And so we really focus a lot on brain health. We obviously do focus on physical activity, but that's the easy one, right? It's easy to get people moving. But we also focus on nutrition and behavior change and health education and health promotion.
That's a new way of looking at it. I really like the term brain health. It encompasses a lot of different things. So what elements of that philosophy are most relevant and transferable to founders who are in the very early days of building their companies?
That's a great question. I would say all of them. I wouldn't want to pinpoint one to be elevated over the other. I see it as kind of almost like a jigsaw puzzle where everything has a purpose and a place. So I would encourage founders to make sure that you're leading a really healthy lifestyle in the way that you want others to mirror you, right? So make sure that you are physically active, make sure that you are being mindful, make sure that you are potentially developing your own yoga practice, make sure that you occasionally do at least have those open conversations about mental health and about brain health and about everyone can access a therapist and how do you do that? And, especially for new fools starting, during our wellness onboarding, I let them know. I'm like, every other Wednesday, I go down the street, I see my brain health therapist. She's awesome. If you'd like her name and number, feel free to let me know. I'll just pass it your way. No questions asked, right? So you have to really, really walk those shoes. You really have to make sure that everyone knows that wellness does look different for every single person, and that's the beautiful thing about it. But that you can't shy away from having sometimes those difficult conversations, whether it's brain health, whether it's nutrition, whether it's trying to get somebody active, but meeting them on their terms.
So when you first started at Motley Fool, and you I don't know if you introduced this concept of brain health. You know, you talked about sort of physical activity. That was something that was easy for people to grasp. Did you find that there were barriers to having conversations around brain health and having people be expressive about, you know, needing support around that?
Absolutely. I think that's one of those things that is going to be a little bit sticky in the forefront, right? But the more that you develop relationships with people, and I really, really try and double down on this. You know, I'm very outgoing, but I'm also, my job is very, very, very people forward. And so I make sure that everyone knows you can come talk to me, whether like you want to go walk down the street and have a margarita, or you need a coffee, or you need to, email me at 11 o'clock at night because you forgot how to access Joyable or one of our great mental health tools. Like, you have to be insanely approachable. And I've made sure that I don't elevate myself to any sort of platform. The first day at the Fool typically is in like a new hire cart. And you kind of walk around with the cart and your other new hire people, and you introduce yourself to people, and like whatever's in the cart's usually a theme. And Annie, who was over recruiting at the time, called me, and she was like, "Okay, Sam, like I'm a little worried to ask you this, but like your new hire cart is beer. Like, are you okay with that?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I want everyone to know from day one that the wellness person does drink beer. She does occasionally eat pizza. She does participate in cake day, right? Like, I'm not going to be over here while everyone else is over here. That's not the precedent that I wanted to set from day one."
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So can you give us, I guess, a little bit more of a deep dive on some of the most popular wellness programming that you've created at the Motley Fool?
Absolutely. Competitive is one of our core values. And so I knew that going in, and I knew that we're very project-based culture. So anything that was 3 months, 6 months, heaven forbid, a 1-year-long program was not going to work for this population, right? So you have to know your population, but also vary your programming too. We do have some longer challenges, but typically our challenges are around 4 weeks. So starting at the beginning of the month, finishing at the end of the month, a new fresh program is coming the next month. And I intentionally don't just do fitness challenges, right? That's the easy part. The easy part is getting people moving. We might do a big one that we do every year is the push-up challenge. So you don't have to do a push-up on your toes. I don't do push-ups on my toes because it's not my favorite exercise. There's thousands of ways you can do a push-up. So you get to pick how you participate, right? I participate with a modified push-up or a variation of a push-up. And you get to pick the number of push-ups that you would like to try and attain in 30 days. So I usually pick, I think 3,000. Sometimes I pick the 5,000 category. I know. There's higher categories, don't you worry, but there's also lower categories, right? So if you'd like to participate, but you're not really sure about push-ups, you're just starting to get exercising, 500 push-ups in 30 days. And all of your push-ups could be against a wall, right? All of your push-ups could be against a bench. It doesn't matter. And I believe the last time we did a full company-wide push-up challenge, it was over, I think, 350,000 push-ups in 1 month. It was insane. But the beautiful part about that is that if you hit your goal, you get, we use You Earned It, or known as Kazoo, as our internal rewards platform. So you typically get $5 or $10. So I'm not like, I'm not trying to, tempt people with a massive carrot, right? It's just a tiny one. And we're typically also, if we hit our goal as a company, we're trying to win prizes for a department maybe that's been under a lot of stress, or a fool that's really been slamming it in out of the park and it's kind of been flying under the radar. So we use that community spirit and community environment and competitive edge that I know everyone has at the Fool to really make some of those challenges really take off. We've done hydration challenges, which I didn't plan appropriately for. So you want to build up to around 50% of your body weight in fluid ounces drank in one day. So a 200-pound person should drink 80 to 100 ounces of water in a day. So we had 4 weeks to slowly build up to whatever that number was for you. And I forgot that doing this type of challenge, I would need to let office ops know that we would need to up our water delivery order for the month. And we ended up running out of water everywhere in the building except for the water fountains. So lesson learned. But challenges like that, I think for us, are inspiring and motivating, slightly competitive, but really community driven as well.
Those are great challenges. I was just thinking about the push-up challenge. I do push-ups, but on my knees, so I'm glad that would also qualify as a push-up. But that's 10 in a week, so maybe that's something that I can also add to my personal challenges. So as we talk about how to translate the programs that you've introduced at the Fool to a home setting, what were some of the early concerns that you heard from your employees when the company moved to a full work from home situation in mid-March, and how did you respond?
Yes, so I believe we found out it was at the end of the week. It was potentially on a Thursday or a Friday. I don't remember what day. And I immediately, my heart went out to all of our vendors, all of our health and wellness vendors, right? So we have on-site yoga, a yoga instructor at HQ and at Denver. We have massage at HQ and at Denver. We have morning sports. We have a gym affiliation discount, so many things. So I was just, first of all, it was kind of rapid firing phone calls and emails to all of them, just letting them know what the current situation was, that we would be completely closing, not coming into the office. So you can't get your highly subsidized massage anymore, Fools, on Tuesday or Thursday. But it's not being taken away, it's coming back. But first of all, I was kind of making sure that to take care of those vendors, have those immediate conversations, let them know that this was happening. Funny thing was that this happened exactly when myself and office ops were flipping our market on the 5th floor. So we flipped our market to a new vendor, and they were supposed to bring in all of the dry goods, all of the refrigerated products, all of the yogurts and the milk and the cheese and the bulk granola and the fruit and all this stuff. And we had to call them and let them know the night before that, hey, we're really sorry, but this is just not going to happen right now. We really tried to get ahead of the virus as a company, and really wanted to make sure that people were already set up and solid to work from home before it got bad. And so I think that really, really, really worked out well for us. It really put us ahead of the game in that component. But as far as specifically to Motley Fool employees, then, once I was having those conversations with the vendors, I was like, hey, Liz, who teaches our Tuesday, Thursday yoga, next week, since we're not going to be in the office, how about we select 5 Fools and try out Zoom yoga? And so I set it up for her and made sure that she felt comfortable doing it. And it was just a small group of people. I didn't blast it out to the entire company, right? And we tested it, and it's amazing, and it went great. And now it's every Tuesday, Thursday. We have Fools in Australia, Fools in Denver, Fools in Philly who are attending a yoga class that they would not normally have been able to attend. So things like that, I wanted to make sure that we're kind of set in place before, we were at week 4 or week 5 in an unknown amount of time. Additionally, I reached out and had those conversations with our food supply. So we use Territory Foods to deliver meals. And I was like, what can we do? Like, and they were like, hey, let us work on a discount code. So your fools will need to start a new order. They're entering a code, and their meals will be shipped directly to their house. So they were still getting a solid discount that was provided by the Motley Fool. They were still getting their healthy meals like they normally would have, but they were able to literally have them directly in front of their front door. This was huge. So shout out to them for being so flexible.
Great, thank you. Have you put out a challenge for employees to try and accomplish while working from home?
Don't you know it? That was, I believe, on a Friday. So I spent that weekend kind of doing I wouldn't say damage control, but really making sure I was trying to get the vendors in a place where they knew what was happening. They knew about how long it was going to last. Figuring out ways that we could still work together during all of this, and they could still have income, and they could still send me those invoices, right? And fools were still getting taken care of. And I created a really quick 4-week challenge that was March through April. And each week focused on a different component that I thought was important for working from home. Working from home is also new to me, right? So I'm at HQ every day. I'm very people forward. So this has been an adjustment for myself as well. But each week we focused on something different. So one week we focused on making healthy lunches. So if you made a healthy lunch that day, great, you marked it in the Google Doc. And I intentionally didn't define healthy because that really does, it puts a barometer in a box around that word. And I want people to start doing their own research and learning what is deemed healthy on their palate and in their brain versus what might not be healthy. So for example, if somebody, was eating fast food every day, but is now, cooking at home, to me, that's a step in the healthy direction, right? So I didn't define what healthy was. I gave guidelines and encouraged people, the more fruits and vegetables, obviously, you have, the better. Vary the colors of your vegetables and your fruits, things like that. Making sure you have a carb and a fat and a protein. Healthy fats are great. Eat those, please. So things like that. And I encourage people to take a photo of their lunch and share it on our internal communication platform, which we use Slack. So again, a little bit of not competitive energy, but people were, kind of like, oh, look at that healthy meal. Whoa, you went all out. Look at mine. Look what I made. Or, like just a can of soup today. Sorry, guys, sorry to disappoint you. So it was fun. It was inherently a little bit competitive, but it got people thinking a little bit differently and outside the box. One week we focused on social connections. So making sure that you are connecting not only with people you normally connected with, but maybe fools that you haven't had a chance to connect with. So fools that are new, or fools that maybe you just haven't had that chance to make that connection with because heaven forbid you work on a different floor, right? And so different things like that each week really, I think, helped a lot of people. One was physical movement sometime in the middle of the day. So I don't want people sitting for 8 hours or, longer just because we're working from home, right? So it was intentional physical activity in the middle of your day, whatever time that was. So things like that.
Those are great suggestions, and those are definitely takeaways that I'm hoping that our audience, our participants, can learn from and certainly implement in their working from home situation. So you talked about your Slack channel and how popular it is and how it acts as a cultural connector. In addition to visiting the channel for lists of free exercise apps and videos of ways to incorporate exercise from home, your employees can also post photos of their healthy lunches that you talked about and other personal ways they're continuing to prioritize wellness. What is it about this channel that makes it such a personal way for people to engage multiple times per day?
That's a great question. I think it has a lot to do with how I've kind of portrayed our wellness program, how I've developed our wellness program, how it's not just steps per day. It's not just, you know, how much you can bench press or whatever metric people think is only directly correlated to health. I think it really has a lot to do with being holistic. And I really, really try and preach that all of the time. So sometimes the conversations on wellness, on the Wellness Channel, are much more brain health focused. Sometimes people are looking for resources. Sometimes they are sharing their personal stories. I believe it was last year, it may have been 2 years ago, I doubled down, I would say tripled down on the brain health component. I was seeing a lot of anxiety in the building, and I think we were just at a place where things may have been moving a little too fast as a company, and people were anxious, and people were scared, and people just didn't have a lot of, I think, faith in maybe what the outlook would look like for them or their job, and there was just a lot of uncertainty I could see in people's faces. So I made sure, and I reached out to a couple fools that I knew had experienced their own mental health journeys. And because I've had years to build those relationships, but I've been intentional about how I built them, that they felt comfortable writing their personal mental health journey and sharing that to the entire company. So, you know, that's insane and amazing and blew a lot of people's minds. And I made sure and told those fools that if a fool comes up and shares something with you, that's awesome. But I don't need to know anything about it, right? Unless you think that that person needs help, or you think that it might be outside of maybe what I call, you know, your scope of practice. And if you think I could be a help or benefit them in some way. But it was insanely powerful. I don't think that any of that could have happened without having those relationships in place, but also we work at a company that's open. And I think that has a lot to do with our culture. It has a lot to do with our founders. They want people to be friends at work, right? So some of my best friends are my coworkers, and some of my coworkers are my best friends. Like, those lines for me are very blurred, and they're blurred for a lot of people. That's not always something that you might want to suggest, but it works for us. And I don't think I could see it any other way at the Fool. But the Wellness Channel, I think people see as a resource. They see it as being fun and competitive, and they can ask questions. They can tag people, right? They can throw up photos, or, you know, look at this awesome website that I found that has some cool exercises. I bet Sam can't do that. And I'm like, excuse me, hold on, watch this, right? So, like, it's that type of energy. And I think that type of energy really defines our wellness program.
Well, it sounds that you have done an incredible job in creating this environment and just providing a lot of options for your employees. So just to pivot and ask a different question, you know, what are you hearing from your peers at other companies? Are there any programs that they've implemented that you really admire?
Absolutely. I have to mention a company that I have done some pro bono consulting with over the years, and it's Uhaul. They are doing amazing things with their wellness program for their employees, and they have a very large population base, right? And they are dispersed, and they have different, you know, white collar and blue collar, if you had to give them names. So it's not just, right, like everyone's in an office, kind of like my population, or work from home office. So not everyone has easy access, I'm sure, to email and all of those things like their population. So they're actually building a massive facility, I believe in Phoenix, and it is, I forget how many thousand square feet, but it's not only a fitness facility, locker rooms, spin, yoga studios, track, basketball court, but it's also it also has an on-site medical facility. And I'm not sure exactly where they are in the stage of that process, but I can't wait to see some outcomes out of that. I know it's kind of been a long dream of mine and our CEO, Tom, to have an on-site doctor or clinician or medical facility. That would be amazing, right? So to see Uhaul starting to put these pieces into place, and knowing that maybe just 4 or 5 years ago that they were at a totally different place and they were just starting to kind of hone out and develop the structure of their program is amazing to see.
Thank you. Wow, that does definitely sound amazing. And I'm, curious to also see how things like that will develop, just given the pandemic we are in, and just, what it means for when we start to interact with each other again, in a different environment. So I'm sure these spaces will accommodate some of the physical distancing that will be required for some time to come. Well, thank you so much, Sam. We have a couple of questions that have come in. Again, encourage all our participants to put in any questions that they have. The first question is, what is the percentage of participation in your programs? It certainly sounds like, folks at the Motley Fool are very engaged, very competitive, but, what is the percentage of participation?
That's a great question. And I usually like to tout this number, but based on those questions, and I didn't feel like I could toss it in there. It's interesting. I personally gauge participation. So we have 4 different kind of components or buckets in our wellness program, right? So physical activity, nutrition, brain health, and health education, health promotion. So if you participate in one of those buckets, in my mind, you are engaged in the wellness program. I sometimes will, and I have a pretty good sense on who is engaged and to what engagement level every single person is in our company, just because I have conversations with people intentionally from all around the world every day. And so basic engagement, we fluctuate around 85% engagement in our wellness program on a monthly basis. So to me, that's amazing. That's huge. Typical engagement in a corporate wellness program hovers probably around 30%, give or take. But that's the typical corporate wellness program. So we're anything but that.
Wow, that is definitely high participation. So for the next question that we have is, how would you recommend to start a wellness program during this time? So I think some of our participants are either running very small businesses, maybe just have very few staff, but either want to implement something, for themselves and, the people that they work with. Any tips that they can be a takeaway for them, that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. Right now, there are a ton of free resources out there. So specifically, I'm a big user of Calm, CALM, meditation app. They have a specific website. I don't remember the exact URL, but it is just all of their free content. Their free meditations, their free breathing exercises, their free visuals, all of that stuff. You could probably just go to calm.com and then you might be able to find it and reroute it through that way. Additionally, so many other apps are out there offering 1 month, 2 months, some of even are offering 90 days of free utilization of their products. So that might be any of the fitness apps that are out there, but I love personally YouTube. YouTube has so many amazing free resources. Specifically Yoga with Adrienne, and her name is spelt with 1 N, not 2. She is amazing. All of her content is completely free. She does 30-day challenges, which she sends you the email. This is the video you have to do. You get to do for today. Anytime. Feel free to break up the video if you don't feel like you can do it all at once. She's just very open and she's really, really positive. So her content is completely completely free. And anyone that I can't really get my hands on right now, which is everyone, and I can't get them in front of a Zoom, I will find a specific Yoga with Adrienne video. She has an amazing one that's for low back pain. And so I've been pushing that to everyone. I'm like, if my back is a little bit sore right now, yeah, I know yours is. So do this one and get back to me and let me know how that went. And chest and shoulder openers, right? So we're all kind of sitting at our desks doing this. Anything that's going to open up your heart and your chest and your upper back is going to be amazing. But just start, if you just Google free wellness resources, free health resources, free brain health, free fitness resources, you will see articles and articles of things that are free right now for people.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. I certainly have learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience has just benefited from all the experience and all the tools and all the challenges and all the fun things that you have been doing at the Motley Fool, and really appreciate you sharing it with us today. So that comes to the end of our webinar today. Thank you all for joining us, and I wish you all a good day.
Thank you.